What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for being here at my YouTube channel. This is where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. That includes movies and TV shows and video games and comic books. And today, I want to give you guys my review for the new Netflix series, I Am Not Okay With This. And this is a series, I think there were 7 episodes in it, and what I appreciated was the brevity of these episodes. They were only about 25-ish minutes each episode. So this is a series at 7 episodes that I was able to get through pretty quickly. I got through it in one sitting, so it actually played like a movie. And this is a series that I really enjoyed. So it stars, gosh, I forget her name, the girl who played Beverly in It. She stars as Sid. And Sid is kind of an outcast at her school. You know, I wouldn't call her a nerd, but I would call her more of like a, just a social introvert. You know, she doesn't really want to be out there. She's perfectly happy being a social introvert and just being by herself, save the time that she spends with her best friend Dina. She loves her best friend. We'll get to how much she loves her best friend in a moment, but she loves her best friend, and outside of her best friend, she's perfectly happy being on her own. She's got a close relationship with her brother. She has a strained relationship with her mother, and her dad is deceased. Her dad passed away. He committed suicide about a year ago. So she's got a lot to process. You know, any teenager who has a parent that dies, especially dies by suicide, that teen has a lot to process. And so she's introverted. She's on her own, with the exception of her friend, who, by the way, her friend is a popular girl. Her friend has a lot of friends and is a popular girl in school. So how does this play out when she learns that she has superpowers? That's basically what this is about. Introvert with a popular best friend, learns she has superpowers, and it plays out almost like Carrie. I'm telling you, it plays out almost like Carrie. There's a lot of similarities. Now, I'm not going to go into deep spoilers here, but there's a lot of similarities to Carrie with the way that this plays out. So Sid is friends with Dina, and she knows what she's supposed to be. You know, she's supposed to be extroverted because her friend is. She's supposed to be involved. She's supposed to be, let's just say it, she's supposed to be heterosexual. That's how she feels. That's how she perceives herself, is, well, I'm supposed to be heterosexual. I'm supposed to like boys. But she's wrestling with the fact that she doesn't like boys. She likes her best friend Dina. That's who she's romantically attracted to. And throughout the course of this season, season 1, we see her kind of grapple with that and then accept that. And we also see her friend Dina kind of grapple with that and accept that. And during this, so Dina gets involved with a jock named Brad. And Brad is your typical jockey guy. He's kind of a jerk. You know, he doesn't do anything egregious enough to warrant, you know, to warrant some of the stuff that happens to him at the end of the season. But he is kind of a jerky jockey guy, and Dina gets involved with him, and then obviously Sid has a lot of jealous feelings about that. So Sid, while she's wrestling with her sexuality, while she's wrestling with how she feels about her best friend, who she's also romantically attracted to, getting involved with this jockey guy who's kind of a jerk, she ends up befriending a quirky guy named Stanley. Now, Stanley is played by the same boy that played Stanley in It. And I forget I forget that actor's name also. But she gets involved with him. And he is one of the bright spots of this series. Now, he's quirky. He's kind of on his own also, but he embraces his quirkiness. He's one of those free spirits that doesn't care what people think about him. Where Sid kind of does care. He doesn't care what people think about him. He's going to march to the beat of his own drum, and he doesn't care at all. And they end up getting romantically involved, and then she backs away from that romantic involvement. But during the course of their romantic involvement, he learns that she has superpowers. Now, her superpowers are more like telekinesis, where she is able to move stuff with her mind. Again, very Carrie-esque. And he ends up kind of becoming her mentor, where he's able to kind of work with her and to get control of her superpowers. Well, all of this stuff that's happening in her life, by the way, she also feels like she's being followed by a supernatural entity. That comes into play more and more as the season goes on. But all this stuff comes to play in her life. Eventually, it all comes to a conclusion, a massive climax at the dance. Like in Carrie. And like in Carrie, Brad does not treat her well. And there's consequences to that on all sides. Everything comes to a head, and there's an explosion of life changes that happens to everybody here at the dance. And the season 1 very much ends on a cliffhanger. And her powers are not necessarily exposed, but there's going to be a lot of questions now. There's going to be a lot of questions about who she is and why this stuff that happened at the dance, why it happened. And there's going to be some answering for those questions that has to occur in season 2. Season 1 definitely ends on a big cliffhanger concerning the supernatural stuff that's been happening to her. And yeah, this was a good series. I hope I didn't give away too much. I don't think that I did. Having seen it and know what's critical, I don't think I've given away too much without, anybody who's watches this video should be able to sit down and really enjoy this series. But the acting is top notch. The stakes really feel like they're high, especially on an emotional level with what's happening to her. You really feel like she's being pulled in a lot of different directions, and that this is not going to necessarily end well for everybody in her life. And on that level, on that personal level, you really feel like these stakes are very real. I would call this kind of a mixture between, it's like Carrie meets Stranger Things meets comic book movies. That's probably how I would describe it. Carrie meets Stranger Things meets comic book movies. It definitely tries to meld several different genres into one, and it does it pretty effectively. There's a really nice scene about halfway through the series, about halfway through season 1, that it was actually very reminiscent of The Breakfast Club. So they definitely try to pull in a lot of different inspirations, and I really enjoyed that. There isn't a lot of special effects in this, considering the fact that it is a comic book superhero type movie. But there was enough that I can say that the special effects were well done and they were believable. I was buying what they was putting on the screen. But really, the series rests on the performance of the actress that plays Sid, the girl who plays Beverly in It, and some flashbacks in It Chapter 2. The success of this really rests on her performance, and she knocks it out of the park. She does a great performance, especially given the range of emotions that she has to portray in this series, and the confusion that she has. Being a teen is hard enough. Being a teen has plenty of angst. The normal teenagers, even whether they're popular, whether they're not popular, whether they're athletes, whether they're nerds, it doesn't matter what they are. Being a teenager has angst. Throw into that confusion about your sexuality, throw into that superpowers, and throw into that your dad committing suicide about a year before, and she has lots of angst. So there's lots of emotions that she has to portray in this, and she does a really good job of doing it. So when it was all said and done, I felt like this was a little short. I felt like some of it was a little bit rushed. I felt like they got from point A to point B really fast. I feel like they could have extended this to 10 episodes. Now, like I said, I really like the abbreviated runtime of the episodes. It really made it possible to get through this season like a movie. But I think it could have used a couple extra episodes just to really explore some of what was happening on her superpower side. Because I feel like in some sense, the superpowers took a back seat to her relationships. And when you're dealing with a movie or a show like this, the relationships are the most important thing. The narrative is the most important thing. But it is a superhero show. So I would have liked to have seen more exploration on that end also. So an episode or two of Stanley and Sid working on the superpowers, I feel like that would have just brought out that end of things a little bit better. It would have fleshed it out a little bit more. But overall, it didn't really need it. I would have liked it. But it didn't really need it because this was a brisk story that had a lot happen in a short amount of time, and they did a really good job of portraying it. So, yeah, I really liked this series. I thought it was well done, and now I'm really looking forward to season 2. So, what did you think of this series? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of content, and I want to make sure that you're up to date with what I'm doing. And as always, thank you for being here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.